I'm recording this so I can post it for people who are absent. But while you are checking your worksheet from Tuesday, I want to say a couple of things, a couple of important announcements. First of all, yesterday's assignment was a lab where you had to watch a video and answer questions. It probably only took 10 minutes. That was how I took attendance for yesterday. If you didn't do the assignment, you currently have a 0 in the grade book for that, and you were marked absent because you didn't do what you were asked to do yesterday. So when it's short assignments like that, I'm going to use those as the attendance because it wasn't even like you didn't need materials or anything. You just needed to watch the video and answer the question. So if that isn't something you have done, and a lot of you didn't do it, I wanted to let you know so you can put it on your list for the study hall time so that you can do it today. I won't change the attendance for yesterday because you didn't do it yesterday, but I will give you a grade for it, right? I also wanted to give you guys the heads up that next week's lab is an actual lab that you're going to do hands-on using materials from the science kit. And it will probably take you an hour, not 10 minutes, okay? I'm gonna post it tomorrow. So technically you could get it done over the weekend or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. It's due on Wednesday, but I am allowed to ask you to do an hour-long assignment because you have a 6-hour school day and I'm 1/6 of your classes. So I'm just giving you the heads up that that one is an experiment where you have to set up an experiment and do some stuff. And I'll talk more about it next week, but just for time planning purposes, I wanted you to know that I will be assigning it early in case you want to get a head start on it. Okay, I'm going to turn the lights back on so we can all see what we're writing on. Let's continue to strain our eyes. So on Tuesday, we did this worksheet with ionic bonding. And we learned how to draw, well, we already knew how to draw like Lewis dot diagrams. And so for instance, in the case of beryllium here, it has 2 valence electrons. So we would expect that it could either lose 2 or gain 6. And it's going to do the smaller number. So it was going to lose 2 and become positive 2, which is a cation. Sorry, I was doing this answer key really fast last period. That's why, just to see. Okay. In the case of nitrogen, nitrogen has 5 valence electrons, so it's either going to lose 5 or gain 3. Again, we always pick the smaller number, so it was going to gain 3 negative electrons and become negative 3. And that's an anion. Then down here, these are us following the steps for ionic bonding. And so if we look at an example, like let's look at strontium and fluorine here, you would have drawn the 2 Lewis dots for the dots for strontium, the 7 dots for fluorine. Strontium wanted to lose 2, but fluorine only wanted to gain 1. So this fluorine can gain 1, but then strontium had another dot to give, so we drew another fluorine, and that fluorine could gain 1. When we draw the steps with the ions, we draw them with their charges. So strontium had lost 2, so it was positive 2, and it's surrounded by the negative fluorines that had each gained 1. The chemical formula is Sr, because the positive comes first, and there's only one of those, and then F2, because we had drawn 2 fluorines. We also learned how to name these on Tuesday, and we write the name of the first element and then the name of the second element with the ending "ide." So it was strontium fluoride. Any questions on this worksheet? Do you want me to go over any other answers specifically? All right. Well, then let's try a problem to make sure we are able to do it today, because we did it on Tuesday. Let's make sure we know how to do these today. So I would like you to draw the steps of bonding for rubidium and phosphorus. Oh, you can't see it. But go through all the steps of ionic bonding for rubidium and phosphorus. So we're following the steps from our notes on Monday. So for rubidium, how many dots did you draw? 1. For phosphorus, how many wow. How many dots did you draw? 5. Which element here is going to lose electrons? Rubidium, right? The one with fewer. And so rubidium can give that phosphorus a dot, and now rubidium is happy, but phosphorus isn't. It still needs 2 more. So we end up drawing 2 more rubidiums. And each rubidium can give one to the empty space of phosphorus. Are we good over there about phosphorus? You figured it out? Okay. So phosphorus needed to gain 3. It got all 3. Each rubidium needed to lose 1. Our next step is writing the ions with their charges. This phosphorus gained 3, so it became -3. And each rubidium lost 1. So we surround the negative with the positives, and each rubidium has a +1 charge. Next, we write the chemical formula. Which element comes first in the chemical formula? The positive one, right? The cation comes first. So we write rubidium. How many rubidiums had we drawn, either in this picture or this picture? 3. And for phosphorus, we'd only drawn 1, and we don't write ones. And then we name it. Can you name it? I'll give you a moment to write its name, like we learned yesterday. Rubidium phosphide, yes. If you write phosphoride, totally fine, but it's phosphide. I'm getting confused now. The point is, you knew that you write the name of the first element and the name of the second element with the ending "ide." So, the kind of questions I'm going to ask on the homework quiz could be, I could give you an element like rubidium, and I could say, what would its ionic charge be? And you would look at the 1 dot, and you would say, oh, it loses 1. It's going to become +1. Does that make sense? Or I could give you R, B, and P, and I could say, what would the chemical formula be? So you might need to go through the steps to figure it out. And then you end up with the chemical formula. I could give you 2 elements, and I could say, what would the name be? Now, if I ask you for chemical formula or name, the biggest thing you need to remember is the +1 goes first. The -1 goes second. I don't want to trick you. There's one tricky question on there where I might have put them in the wrong order. Hint, hint, just like the worksheet. Positive goes first, negative goes second. So tell me how you're feeling. Do we need to do more practice, or are we ready for the quiz? Thumbs up if you're ready. Thumbs middle if you could use another practice problem. I'm seeing a few middles, so let's do one more practice. And then keeping in mind that if today's quiz doesn't go the way you want, and you do get the opportunity to retake next week. But let's do one more practice so that we're feeling confident. Okay? Let's do let's do BA and I. to Ba and I. So go through all the steps so that you can figure out the ionic charges and the chemical formula and the name. So Ba wanted to give away 2 electrons, but iodine only wants to gain 1 electron. So I went ahead and drew the second iodine that I was going to need. Ba can give 1 electron to the empty space on this iodine, can give 1 electron to the empty space on that iodine. Now the Ba is happy because it's given away 2. The I is happy because they've each gained 1. For the ions, barium lost 2 electrons, so it's +2. This iodine gained 1, and this iodine gained 1. So they're both -1. As always, those charges add up to 0 because ionic compounds are always neutral. Ba comes first, there's only 1 of those. I comes second, there were 2 of those. And then the name of it, barium iodide. Okay. So I'm going to leave this projected and shared because this quiz is open notes, it's open resources, it's open periodic table. You're welcome to use any of those things to help you. I'm going to assign the quiz right now, and we're going to take it right now. Now, for my Zoomers, this is not the end of class. We're actually going to do some notes after this quiz, so please stay on. I'm going to stop the recording, though, because I don't need to record the time when you guys are taking the quiz. Okay, so now we're going to start covalent bonding by talking about how to name covalent compounds, because it's a little bit different than the way we name ionic compounds. So your title is Naming Covalent Compounds. The first step in naming a covalent compound is to use a prefix in front of every element to tell how many of that element you have. Keep doing our notes for now, and we'll hope the classroom's working later. Step 2 is to change the second element's ending to "ide." Thanks for being flexible and bouncing back and forth, guys. So step 2 is to change the second element's ending to "ide." And the last step is more like a don't. Don't use mono for the first element, and that will make sense when we go over the prefixes. So we are going to use prefixes 1 through 10 when we're naming covalent compounds that have between 1 and 10 of an element. And if it has 1 of an element, we use the prefix mono. I should be putting little lines after each of these because they come in front of something else. 2 of an element, we use di. 3 is tri. 4 is tetra. 5 is penta. 6 is hexa. 7 is hepta. 8 is octa. 9 is nona. And 10 is deca. So we don't use mono for the first element, but if there's 1 of the second element, we do use mono. So I'm going to show you some examples where we do and don't use it, so it makes a little bit more sense. Okay, I used to have this article that I would have students read and would get them all fired up. And the name of the article was Ban Dihydrogen Monoxide. And it talked about how everyone who has ever consumed dihydrogen monoxide has or will die. How it kills thousands of people every year. Too much of it will kill you. Too little of it will kill you. It's found on all continents and all over Earth. And it is a leading, I forget what else it says. But it goes on and on and on. And at the end it says, ban dihydrogen monoxide. Well, ladies and gentlemen, dihydrogen monoxide is water. H2O, right? But everyone who has consumed it or either has or will die at some point. Too much of it can kill you. If it can burn you if it's too hot, right? It can freeze you if it's too cold, blah, blah, blah. Dihydrogen, because there are 2 hydrogens. And it's monooxide, but when there's double O's, we never use the double O. We drop one of the vowels if there's 2 in a row. So H2O, water, if we use this naming method, is dihydrogen monoxide. But I used to get kids all riled up, like, we need to ban this. Like, why would this be allowed? I think it said, like, it's in city pipes. And then people thought there was poison in their pipes. Careful. All right. So, cover up my answer, my next one. Let's try this guy. N3CL8. What I love about this, following these rules, is you can sound really smart, but you're just following really basic rules. Or at least I feel smart when I say them. So this one is trinitrogen octachloride. So you can say, oh, N3CL8, or you can say trinitrogen octachloride, and it just makes me feel good. My classroom isn't totally back yet. Bummer. You've all heard of this one before. What's this one called? You just know it. Carbon dioxide. But this is an example of step 3, Olivia. You are Olivia, right? No, that's Riley. Riley asked the question. Sorry, trying to remember names. We don't say monocarbon. If there's 1 of the first element, we don't use mono. We only use mono if there's 1 of the second element. So this is just called carbon and then dioxide for the 2 oxygens. And you've all heard of that one before. So we only use mono for the second element. All the other prefixes we use for the first or second element. Yes. Just CO is carbon monoxide. Let's try this last one. I did just show you the answer. It's a 10. 10's as big as I can go, and I went for it. It's as big as I can go with these prefixes. So I want you to try to name it. Yeah. Jackson? Almost. Decahydride, exactly. Good job. So remember, we have to put the "ide" at the end. So it's tetracarbon decahydride. And that was all I wanted to do for our notes today, which is perfect timing because Google Classroom just allowed me to assign the quiz. When you are done with the quiz, you are done today. I'm going to stop recording. And we're going to do practice on this naming tomorrow. And we're going to have a homework quiz on the naming tomorrow after we do a worksheet to practice.